Betsy and Thomas here for the American Intelligence Media. Woo, we've got a lot of tweets. Now, for those of you who've just joined us and don't know how this works, if you look in the description box below, you're going to see a link. If you open up that link inside of YouTube, you're going to be able to listen to our audio and you'll have all the tweets in front of you, okay? That's how it works. All right, let's get started. June 17th, Chuck Schumer said, quote, "The summit was what the Texans call all cattle and no hat," close quote. Thank you, Chuck, but are you sure you got that right? No more nuclear testing or rockets flying all over the place? Blew up launch sites, hostages already back, hero remains coming home, and much more.
We would be in a nuclear war if the Democrats were in the White House, and Chuck Schumer would be leading the majority voting to drop bombs on Little Kim. That's the way that works. He is an obstructionist. He, Obama, Hillary, and the Democrats gave money to these criminals like Kim because they scream, "We're going to drop nuclear bombs on you. We're going to kill all Americans." And what do? The Democrats give them more money. Build them nuclear power plants that they can create plutonium from. Billions and billions, $4.5 billion, okay? So these people who say this are stupid.
No, they're not. They're globalists.
It's the end of the no, they're liars, and they're using stupid methodologies because they're going to lose all Democrats. The longer they keep saying this and keep screaming, "I won't accept the peace agreement. I won't accept denuclearization. I won't accept that Kim already destroyed his research facility where they explode the bombs, where they build the engines." They won't accept anything. So, folks, there will be peace in North Korea. Schumer and Pelosi and the Democrats will still be screaming for war.
Now, Thomas, as we all know, those of us who've been listening to you for a while, you are a master cryptologist, decoder of these Trump tweets. And when I look at the next tweet, very simple one, I felt like it was a personal call to you. And that is, please clear up the fake news. So, Douglas, on behalf of President Trump, tell folks what maybe he can't tell them in these tweets.
If you're watching the fake news, you're simply being manipulated into the commercialism of big bankers and big brokers. Basically what we call warlord people. They're warlords. That's what the fake news is. The fake news is the rattling of sabers. The fake news says, go after Kim when there's peace coming. The fake news says, continue with the Iran deal, which is to give money and weapons to Hezbollah. See, the fake news only reads in an echo chamber. They're parrots reading in an echo chamber what the Associated Press and Reuters Thompson gives them, and that comes directly from these warlord bankers. Look at the 6 major corporations that own every media outlet, every major media outlet in America. They all trace back to one cabal. And so, fake news media, there is a war, and that's the reason he's retweeting some of these bombs. These are bunker bombs that he's tweeting out here. And he's just not going to let up until the fake news is gone, the Democrat Party is dead, and the new Trump Republican Party is bringing truth to America.
And let me add that fake news also includes any news source that you are listening to that does not take you to the truth. Because many times they get you to think that you're getting all the news, but they never take you as far as we need to go to restore the republic. As an example, the other day on a Sean Hannity show, the guest host talked about the senior executive service, which we need to talk about in this country. Now, it never got uploaded. At least at this point in time, I never saw it get uploaded to the podcast. I'll have it in the link below so that you can listen to it. But this is the kind of news that we need to be hearing. We need to know what's really going on in the swamp. Now, the next 2 tweets are kind of similar about this fake news. I'm going to read them both together. Daniel Henninger of the Wall Street Journal. This IG report makes it clear, as did Rod Rosenstein's memo, that Trump was absolutely justified, unquestionably justified, in firing Jim Comey, so I think the Mueller investigation is on pretty weak grounds right now. And then Trump says, witch hunt. So that was a quote from Daniel Henninger. And then the next one is, funny how the fake news, in a coordinated effort with each other, likes to say I gave so much to North Korea because I met. That's because that's all they have to disparage. We got so much for peace in the world, and more is being added in finals. Even got our hostages remains.
Okay, with the first one, he loves to quote other people who state what he really thinks, which is just beautiful. So the IG report makes it clear that, as did Rod Rosenstein's memo, that Trump was absolutely justified, unquestionably justified in firing James Comey. Well, that's because Rod Rosenstein and Jeff Sessions wrote up a long description of what now the Michael Horowitz report is calling insubordination, which was really criminal activity because there was perjury involved, there were lies involved, tons and tons of lies. They lied and said there was an investigation. There wasn't. They never investigated anything about the emails. Nothing. We now know that. It's very clear in even the IG report. So what he's doing here is he's turning it around and he's saying there's no collusion, there's no obstruction, the witch hunt, turn it around, go after the inquisitors who are directing the witch hunt. Go after Robert Mueller. He has been on the offense for some time now since we started decoding these, and he is not letting up. And he's just going to keep carpet bombing these people. Because why? People are really subliminally controlled by the media, and they're worse than asleep. They're in a dreamless sleep. They're in a trance by the hypnotism of what they hear. He has to break them out of that. So it has to be turned. The witch hunt has to be turned on the inquisitors themselves. Now, for the next one, as we said the other day, when they can't find anything to complain about with Trump because everything's going so well, they just make up stuff. But let's just turn this the other way around. Why wasn't there peace in Korea? Because no president would meet with one of their rulers. Okay? Trump meets with him. Now the talks have begun. No talk could have ever begun until a president who wants war, and why else would they not speak with someone who is threatening to kill every American and shooting missiles and saying they're going to launch nuclear weapons at Japan, at Guam, at America, so on and so forth. Why would they not speak with those people? Because they want war. It's as simple as that. No talking, peace can't happen. No talking, war continues. No talking, just send them money on pallets to Iran, to Syria, to Iraq, to Afghanistan, to North Korea. Just send them pallets of money whenever they threaten us. That's what you do when you're a prior president before Trump. That was the job of the president. And what he is basically saying is he's not going to continue this nonsense because it's just plain stupid. That's the reason that he did what he did in Israel. He knows that to sit down at that table, a two-nation solution has to be on the table or else there's no reason to be there. That's the reason he's not there. Once those two nations, all the nations in the Levant, in Israel, and the people who are involved in the Zionist Greater Israel Project, they're all going to have to sit down with Trump, and one-on-one, they're going to have to make a deal. And if they don't, he's not going to deal with them, and then they'll simply collapse because he understands that economies drive war. He's now totally in control of our economy.
Next one, holding back the war games during the negotiations was my request because they are very expensive and set a bad light during good faith negotiation. Also, quite provocative. Can start up immediately if talks break down, which I hope will not happen.
That he has to even defend himself on stopping the war games. War games, 70 years of war games cost us trillions of dollars.
And the military-industrial complex and all their companies that are run by Serco were making out like bandits.
And what would you do if you had war games running constantly for 70 years threatening you? How would you feel about that? And no one at the other side who was doing these war games against you and militarizing South Korea, they don't want to talk to you. They call you a terrorist. They call you all kinds of names that they don't even have any substantiation for. In many of these cases of his supposed civil rights abuse, look at other countries like China who does 1,000 times worse than that. So it's complete nonsense. They make up these ideas for reasons not to talk to people about ending war. And that's because they want war. Those war games, why would you continue them when you're in peace negotiations? That is a sign of a lack of good faith. So not only are they expensive, Kim Jong-un was freaked out when they continued to do them after he had destroyed his nuclear research facilities, destroyed the test site, met with the South Korean president, made his guarantees, completely started changing everything, and then we still run war games? Okay, that is nothing more than the mainstream media, again, attacking Trump because he wants peace. And remember, he's the one they say is, the warlord. Incorrect. The mainstream media, the supporters of the mainstream media, and the majority of the Congress and Senate are the warlords, and especially presidents.
Okay, the next one, the denuclearization deal with North Korea is being praised and celebrated all over Asia. They are so happy. Over here in our country, some people would rather see this historic deal fail than give Trump a win, even if it does save potentially millions and millions of lives. Well, those are some people, because I would say that many of us out here are sick and tired of war. We want to see it end, and we want to see all these businesses that benefit from the war machine out of business.
Correct. When he says some people, he's referring to Barack, Barry Soetoro, Obama, because he tried to reach Kim to spoil the talks ahead of time, but he didn't have his current telephone number. Then you got John Kerry, who was defying the Logan Act, should go to jail for what they've done, conducting business for America against the president's wishes. The president is the one who goes in, who conducts deals, who conducts treaties and the negotiations of them. John Kerry went to Iran and tried, to spoil that deal so that Iran would be even more belligerent towards us. So these people, these are people who have an illness that is called Trump derangement syndrome. They'd rather see World War III. They'd rather see nuclear annihilation. They'd rather see anything but Trump be successful because they are babies.
No, it's because if Trump is successful, they are the ones that are going to be in deep trouble with all of their sedition and espionage and treason.
Precisely, because look, when John Kerry went to Iran, it rebounded on him. Trump did not send the Justice Department, which he could have if he had a good Justice Department, to charge John Kerry with his crimes. When Barack Obama tried to reach him, he should have had a congressional investigation right there. Why was Barack Obama trying to interfere into peace negotiations? These are crimes, folks, and all the rest of the world is thanking Trump. But here in America, these obstructionist Democrats, what we would call the Democratic Chicago mob group, Obama and his henchmen and Hillary and her henchmen, or what Trump calls the Clinton dynasty, and really you have to include Obama in the Bush dynasty. So the Bush, Clinton, Obama, that's one dynasty. That's one friggin' family. That is one cabal. Now they all work for their own self-greed, but they all are working against Trump. And why? Because the more they attack him, the more their crimes come to light. And that's what they can't understand. They don't understand what we call the Trump effect. You attack him, it rebounds on you. Others call it the illness in their brain, but I believe it's not just an illness in them. I believe it's quite contrived, is the Trump derangement syndrome.
Okay, moving on to the next tweet. Our economy is perhaps better, in caps, than it has ever been. Companies doing really well and moving back to America, and jobs numbers are the best in 44 years.
And you won't hear about that in the mainstream media. And when he says MAGA, make America great again, he's going to make America great better than it was before. That's what he's aiming at. And he has to keep singing his praises because the mainstream media ignores these historic numbers, these historic facts, these historic, it's historic winning. No president has won so much. And are we tired of the winning? No, we want the winning to continue, and we want it now to focus on the people that he's going to basically drop bombs on in these next tweets.
The latest is that the mainstream media is calling all of us out here, we're in the Trump cult. And I say, great, we're in the Trump cult of winning. And if you're not on board with this, come along, because we are winning in so many fronts, and especially in defeating the fake news and their fake narrative. So here we go again. Here's another one. We call it Jeff Bezos's blog. Washington Post employees want to go on strike because Bezos isn't paying them enough. I think a really long strike would be a great idea. Employees would get more money, and we would get rid of fake news for an extended period of time. Is the Washington Post a registered lobbyist? Ooh, lots of intrigue in this one, Thomas. Take us into it and tell us what's in between the lines.
He's always asked if the Washington Post was a lobbyist group because of the obvious political bias with Jeff Bezos. And now we find Jeff Bezos is a monster, both in his Amazon company and in Washington, the way he runs Washington Post. Hundreds of them said, please pay us money, stop paying us poverty wages. The people at Amazon have brought lawsuits against him. He doesn't even allow them to go to the bathroom in an 8-hour shift, okay? And if they don't keep up, he replaces them with robots. So what is happening here? This is one tweet that takes down Jeff Bezos. We told you the other day that when he made one single tweet about monopoly and Jeff Bezos, Bezos lost billions the next day. And then it came out that Jeff Bezos has not made any profit until last year. In 2017 was the first time he made a penny of profit. Then how does he exist? Because he is subsidized by the U.S. Post Office, which Trump has pointed out. He is also subsidized by contracts for cloud computing for the CIA and the DoD, the Department of Defense. He couldn't exist without U.S. support, just like Elon Musk.
Which comes down to taxpayers. The very people that are paying him are the ones that he's lying to.
What we had recently pointed out is that Trump, with a few tweets, could take down the entire Silicon Valley cardboard cutout tech warlord kings. Because why? Jeff Bezos didn't do nothing. He's a front man. So is Zuckerberg. So is Thiel. So are the members of PayPal, the original members that started PayPal. They all came out of the IBM Eclipse group. They are all fake. They don't even know what they're doing. They are actually being run by government agencies through the Senior Executive Service. They're kind of like Serco. They have what are basically government monopolies that are subsidized by the government. Well, wait a second. If somebody else knew they could be subsidized, they could do a better job than Jeff Bezos. Let's remember, Jeff Bezos and Mark Zuckerberg both believed that because of the control they had through their fake placement at the top of these companies, that they would simply announce that they were going to be the next president. Remember that? Just months ago, both of them talking as if Zuckerberg said, "Oh no, it's a given. If I use Facebook, I become the president. That's I haven't decided I want to be the president, but I'm considering it." Same thing for Bezos. Same thing now for Comey. Now we have Comey again, second time, insinuating that he's going to become the president, the most corrupt person in our FBI legal system, bar, of course, Robert Mueller. Wants to become a president. He's the president. He's just going to assume the presidency. Well, what happened to Queen Hillary? What happened to all the other 22 different candidates that they put forward? These people are deranged. And they get deranged because the government sets them up through the Senior Executive Service with contracts that are basically no-bid contracts. Same for our entire military-industrial complex. The top 20 contractors get any contract they want. They sit at a table with the Highlands Forum and with In-Q-Tel, and they make these decisions on who is going to die and who's going to make the profit off of it.
And you see, this is why I say that Fox News is fake news. Because if they were real cutting-edge truth news, they would be telling the story you're telling. They would be going in with their reporters, outing the SES and Serco and all the stuff that's going on. But they don't, because they don't want you to see it.
No, you're absolutely right, Betsy. It is thick as a brick, but the beauty of it is there was a 3-hour show the other day where they talked about SES continuously.
But again, that was a guest host on the Sean Hannity radio show. Mm-hmm. So, that's a start, but that's not enough for all of us out here who are addicted to truth and we want to hear the truth.
Well, we were just a lone voice with Phil McConnell yelling in the desert. No one was hearing. At least people are hearing.
Now, the next are 4 retweets. And folks, we already covered those retweets in the audio that we did just before. So you can take a moment, stop this video, read through those tweets if you want, but we've got to continue on. So we're going to go to the one on June 17th at 9:54 a.m. Big caps, witch hunt. There was no Russian collusion. Oh, I see. There was no Russian collusion. So now they look for obstruction on the no Russian collusion. The phony Russian collusion was a made-up hoax. Too bad they didn't look at crooked Hillary like this. Double standard.
He's trying to repeat and say the same thing in a way that wakes them up and hits people on the head who are still asleep. So if you are a Hillary supporter, and none of them would be listening to this, this would hit you on the head. This is like a Zen master hitting you with a bamboo stick on the head to wake you up. Okay, folks, it's absurd. They've already announced there was no Russian collusion. So now, because Comey has been knocked out of the box, there can't be any obstruction of justice with Comey. So now they want to look at obstruction on the Russian collusion, which doesn't exist, because they indicted 13 Russians who didn't have anything to do with meddling in the election. 3 Russian companies, one who is suing Mueller. It's all so horrible. And they need to say, Jeff Sessions this is a cry to Jeff Sessions to say, will you step forward and at least tell people that you are investigating crooked Hillary? And where is the status of that case, seeing that we have seen so much crooked lies from the mainstream media? Jeff Sessions, where is the crooked Hillary investigation into her foundation?
Well, of course, Jeff Sessions isn't going to do anything. He's knee-deep in corruption himself with all the Uranium One scandals.
Precisely. Where Jeff Sessions is the special counsel to go after the people who rigged what did they call it? They called it an investigation. Matter of fact, the matter. They didn't even name who it was that the matter concerned. That's come out in the Horowitz report. They never even named Hillary Clinton, let alone investigated her. She was never investigated. She was never even named. Isn't that amazing? And that's the reason the interview with her and her laptop and her Blackberries and her and Cheryl and Huma's and all the others' computers. That's the reason they told them to destroy them, which they did not. They took them back to the FBI office, to Comey's office, and that's where they sit to this day. They have all the emails. The server wasn't wiped clean before they got that information because they went in and they got it. But there was no investigation. So that is not evidence. Get that, folks? The very criminal, top secret violations of Hillary's security agreements, which she knew when she did that, created the server, worked from a BlackBerry that wasn't secured, used it in foreign countries and compromised agents, talked to Obama on his private line, which is illegal, to Loretta Lynch on her private line under a pseudonym, illegal. Andrew McCabe used the same thing, illegal. James Comey did the same thing, illegal. And yet we're not looking at them? Horowitz didn't demand an indictment, Huber to bring an indictment against these people, though the crimes are stated right in his report? It's worse than a witch hunt. This is an attack. This is a frontal attack.
Well, this is what a domestic enemy looks like. The domestic enemy doesn't show up at the borders in tanks and fly over with airplanes. This domestic enemy has lodged itself within our government, and they're working from within to destroy America. And you're going to find most of them, I mean, we've identified them. The names come up and we look in the plum books, and sure enough, they're members of the Senior Executive Service. So this is the first agency that I want to see Fox News go after. So where are you, Fox News? Are you real news? Fake news? What are you? Show us who you are. Okay, next one is, why does the FBI giving so much information to the fake news media? They are not supposed to be doing that. And knowing the enemy of the people, fake news, they put their own spin on it. Truth doesn't matter to them.
I want to go back to the one before that. Happy Father's Day.
Oh.
Name a father who has as many children as him, who the children love him and work with him, and he had a bunch of money. In my experience, children of rich people often turn out horrible.
Okay.
So, he is the ultimate father. Thank you. Thank you, Father of America.
Yeah, well, one day we're going to be talking about the Mother of America. Okay?
Oh, hallelujah.
Yeah, all right.
That would make me happy.
Yeah, let's get down here now to the one I just read.
Okay, so it's institutionalized criminality. We know Comey participated in it. We know that the Horowitz report says many people, basically everyone at the FBI and at the DOJ and at the Secretary, at the Department of State, they have a group of prostitutes giving them sex, money, tickets, meals, trips. And if we know that that was admitted, What do you think is really going on, folks? They get what they want. The media simply pays these people to be the liars, to seed their stories, which, and then Trump points out that then they add their spin on top of that, and they make it the exact opposite, and yet they say they speak to these people, and yeah, they speak to them when they're paying them off, when they're giving them bribes, when they're all cheating. And each and every one of those people committed a felony. Each and every. Why didn't Horowitz name those people and recommend indictment? Each and every single leak is a felony. And if it concerns anything above confidential, it is a massive felony. If it concerns a conversation with the president or is from the White House, that is a security violation that in the security agreements, you go to jail for many years and you pay hundreds of thousands of dollars of fines, and you don't defend yourself in a court because you either did or you didn't. They play the tape. You said that. The person turned you in. They have your whatever. They have you whatever. The evidence is there. We know who these people are. For instance, James Wolfe. Why is James Wolfe not in jail? Thousands of leaks he gave to little...
Bottom line is Michael Horowitz is senior executive service. He's an operative too. And so he's there to protect all these other people who are the same. Now, people will say, oh, but John Huber, he's coming to the rescue. He's going to do something. What do you have to say about that, Thomas? Is John Huber going to do what people thought that Horowitz would do?
Okay. Special counsels are bound by law... Inspector generals are bound by law that when they find a crime, they must report it and recommend it for prosecution, which means instantaneously, even during the investigation, their bosses get that information, they get all the evidence, so there's no more work to be done, and then they simply indict them and convict them. And when that happens... there's no fighting it. They already got all the evidence. You can get a lawyer, Mr. McCabe, but you leaked like a crazy man, and you lied in front of the Congress and perjured yourself. Go ahead, get a lawyer, try to defend that.
And he ran an operation that was attempting to overthrow the government.
Oh my gosh, yes, and many other crimes, many other crimes. Andrew McCabe and Peter Strzok are horrible criminals. They will go down, if the truth comes out, they will go down as two of the biggest criminals in American history.
Bigger than Benedict Arnold.
Yes. Oh, much bigger.
Much bigger. In fact, there are a lot of Benedict Arnolds out there.
That's what is going on in Washington, D.C. It's almost like it's a competition.
Next tweet. Why was the FBI sick loser, Peter Strzok, working on the totally discredited Mueller team of 13 angry and conflicting Democrats when Strzok was giving crooked Hillary a free pass, yet telling his lover, lawyer Lisa Page, that we'll stop Trump from becoming president? Witch hunt. Now, before you go on, I do want to look at this 13 angry and conflicted Democrats, because there's a lot of discussion going on the internet right now as to who these 13 are, because it isn't really clear to folks that, and some are saying that maybe it's not who we think it is.
Okay, people are just not thinking clearly. The 13 angry, conflicted Democrats. Is that Mueller? No. Mueller is a fake Republican. He's the only Republican on the group. That is not who Trump is talking about, and then they say Trump is all wrong because of that. No. He's talking about the people on the team. He isn't talking about the person leading it. Who were two of the people that were on the team? Peter Strzok and Lisa Page. They're both Democrats. He's saying that their bias... just the fact that they were on that special counsel makes a special counsel completely fake and needs to be destroyed now.
What you just said implies that Strzok is on that council and Strzok is not.
Yeah, he was, and he had to be kicked off. Both
he
Lisa
was
and Strzok.
Originally?
He is the main witness for the entire special counsel.
And Mueller had Strzok on the original team?
And we have Lisa Page and Peter Strzok in their text messages saying he's going to set his good friend, Judge Contreras, up, the FISA court judge, who was then on the special counsel, who took Strzok's testimony, and Strzok was everywhere. Strzok was everywhere in every single thing. Even the things Andrew McCabe wasn't allowed into, Peter Strzok was there. Okay.
Well, I posted an article about how the ties that Strzok had to Obama long time ago.
Oh, yes. He's been their dirty guy for a long time. When they want something really evil done, they call him. Okay, that's the reason Trump calls him a sick loser. And he's a loser because he got caught. Now, he's friends with Judge Contreras, and in the text messages it says they're going to set him up for a dinner.
No, it was a little cocktail party.
Well, cocktail party dinner, so that they can talk and not have anybody notice that they're meeting, so that they can tell him what to do. Because Peter Strzok is leading. Now, remember this. Peter Strzok was chosen to be part of the small group with Brennan to start the counterintelligence attack against candidate Trump, President Trump-elect, and sitting President Trump, and was the consistent person between all of those attacks, the emails, helping Andrew McCabe not get caught for his crimes, hiding Uranium One, working with Jeff Sessions to make sure that was hidden, meeting with Stephen Halper, meeting with the other people who were setting up the spies, the informants in the Trump team, helping lead that team, being the coordinator to Fusion GPS. I can't list all of his crimes. His crimes, I would take an hour to list his crimes. That's who this man is. And I named him from the beginning. And his two bosses above him quit because of these activities, Steinbeck and Gail Coloni. And then William Priestap wants to act like he didn't know any of this was going on. It was just Peter Strzok. He's just doing his thing, man. And Andrew McCabe, he was reporting to McCabe. And they were using Lisa to report to McCabe. And they were going around me. And so we told you from the beginning, William Priestap is going to act like he didn't know what went on. He directed the whole darn thing. He should be in jail. Why do you have a counterintelligence attack supported by the NSA, the CIA, the FBI, the State Department, and the Department of Justice against a sitting president? Every one of those people was part of an attempted coup d'etat. That would be everyone who was in any way part of the Crossfire Hurricane, which then became the small group, which then became the interagency group, which then became the group that led the insurance policy, which then became the secret society, which then became the committee to impeach, which then became the special investigation of Mueller. And when Strzok and Page were kicked off, the investigation was compromised and had to end. Why? Because you can't even report anything that happens. It's all secret. We all knew this. It was in the news. It was all over. How was anyone allowed to continue that investigation? I can right now name 100 compromising reasons why that investigation should have never been founded, is improperly founded, has no justification, the parameters are stupid and don't even exist. There's no such crime as conspiracy against the United States of America. That is complete BS. And then everything Mueller has done, every indictment, all the low-hanging fruit he's going after, which we told you he would, non-existent Russians, non-existent, and he is compromised from the beginning. And he had to have given Comey immunity from the beginning, or Comey should be in jail and indicted as the first person of his investigation.
Whew. Okay, well, let's continue to get you worked up.
Slippery James Comey. Sick deal. Best friends with Robert Mueller. Thank you, President, for basically pointing out, and that Craig Gowdy said that this is the worst case of bias.
Well, you're jumping ahead now.
That he's ever witnessed.
Okay, you jumped ahead. The Democrats should get together with their Republican counterparts and work something out on border security and safety. Don't wait until after the election, because you're going to lose. And I will say that. You're going to lose, people, because we know who you are. You're globalists. I don't care if you're Democrats or Republicans. Patriots out here know who you are. And we want to secure America. And if you cannot stand up and stand with the president and get it done, we're going to vote you out of office.
If you're so friggin' stupid you can't see Europe and what's happened there, get out of office now. And when he says lose, he means the stupid rhino Republicans to who. You're going to lose your country. You're going to lose everything if you continue on this path of not securing our borders and continuing with these stupid immigration laws that are it's the Democrats who created these laws, not the Republicans.
Now we're going to go into Yappy Trey. And I say that because that's what he does very well. He is one of these eloquent lawyers who can talk and talk and talk. He's all talk, no do. So let's see what all talk, no do Trey says. The highest level of bias I've ever witnessed in any law enforcement officer, close quote. Trey Gowdy on the FBI's own Peter Strzok. Also remember that they all worked for Slippery James Comey, and that Comey is best friends with Robert Mueller. a really sick deal, isn't it?
Yes, so the first part was the quote, and then Trump is talking, and he mentions Peter Strzok, slippery James Comey, and that Comey is best friends with Mueller. And I have seen editorials that try to say that they're not friends. They've just worked together. This is complete nonsense. They worked in the same companies together. They were the shadow of one another. He has been shadowing Mueller for decades. They go back to the late 70s when their crimes started. They've been together doing this stuff.
Now, does Mueller
for
go
decades.
back as far as when Comey and his brother had that incident as young men? I mean, is Mueller involved in that in any way? Did he come in to kind of look at the situation and see two vulnerable boys and take them under his wing? I mean, this is just a question we kind of ask, to get things.
That's very interesting, and most people don't know that Comey and his twin brother were held captive and raped in their own house until they crawled out the window after days.
Yes, and wouldn't that have been something that the FBI would have investigated or looked at?
Sounds like MK Ultra to me, and sounds like, yes, both the Comey brothers have been manipulated ever since then. Just look at James Comey. He's got a blank brain. He simply reads what he's told to read. He has no morality, and when he does speak morality, it's the opposite. He says he's the new standard of truth and honesty, and something higher he holds. Higher than what? The President, the U.S. Constitution,
Well,
truth, what?
I digress, but this is where we...
That's a good question. We will research that. I never thought about that. Did Mueller go in and sweep them up and then turn them into his agents?
Yes.
Because he is basically his son.
Yes, and I posted a picture today on Truth News Headlines, just a reminder picture of, you could see the feelings that Mueller has of Comey, and it's just very strange.
Peter Strzok is a counterintelligence agent, which means he's a liar, he's a con agent. He sets people up. He works outside of the U.S. Constitution, and this is the parameters that govern the FBI counterintelligence agency and the Department of Justice National Security Division. They basically work counterintelligence, and the fact that he worked this against an American citizen running for president, and then the president-elect, and then the president, yes, Peter Strzok may go down as being the biggest criminal in U.S. political history.
Okay, next tweet. Why don't the Democrats give us the votes to fix the world's worst immigration laws? Where is the outcry for the killings and crime being caused by gangs and thugs, including MS-13, coming into our country illegally?
The Democrats are so stupid because they think their old stuff works now. They think they can blame the laws they created on the Republicans, and then they try this by showing fake pictures of children in cages and saying that's what Trump does. No. Trump had nothing to do with that. You separate the children at the border from who brings them in because those are children being human trafficked. Those children simply are anchor babies for the people who, if they can get across the border, get that child in the country, then they say they were born here, and that's an anchor baby. And you know how many of them there are? 2.5 million. And they're coming across the border at a level of about 400,000 a year. That's what they say Trump is doing? No, that's what the Democrats created. And they created the ability because of the anchor babies and because of catch and release and chain migration and lottery immigration and all these fake deregulations that Obama made and Obama's promise of amnesty. Obama created this mess. He had 8 years to work on it. All he did is exacerbate it, make it worse, and make it worse than ever before in history. Trump is simply saying, get it together, folks. Let's stop the gangs. Let's stop the crimes. Let's stop the 114 assassinated politicians in Mexico this year. That's what's going on in Mexico.
Look, I have news for folks. If you haven't figured it out, if you commit a crime, you're going to be separated from your children. Lisa Page, do you have children? You're going to be separated from your children when they put you in jail. So being separated from your children in these situations is really, it's not unusual. The people of Germany are turning against their leadership as migration is rocking the already tenuous Berlin coalition. Crime in Germany is way up. Big mistake made all over Europe in allowing millions of people in who have so strongly and violently changed their culture.
Angela Merkel now parrots what Soros told her, which is migrants out. Pay North Africa $20 billion a year to keep them there. And it is true they are wiping out our culture. And so her coalition is crumbling right now, and she's probably going to lose it because she was the only one who could hold together a coalition, because there are idiots in Germany that don't seem to understand that the migrants have taken over their country. And they're not migrants, they're invaders. And they're not Christians, they're destroying your churches and putting up mosques, and they're bringing in Sharia law. Your law doesn't affect them. I don't know how anyone could be that stupid. But we are allowing that also in America to some degree, and that stupidity is like a virus spreading to us. So what Trump is basically saying is, really, you want America to become like Europe? Bye-bye Angela, Hitler, Merkel, because she has destroyed Europe on a cultural level as much as Adolf Hitler did with the destruction that he brought.
This is a Saul Alinsky tactic when you make your enemy live up to their morality, their standards. So they're using that, you're supposed to be good Christians, so you're supposed to bring all of this in. Well, that is the Christian standard, to take care of others and to love others. But this has been weaponized against us so that we can't see clearly that these are, first, they're invaders. They want to destroy your cultures. That's what they're there to do. Next one, we don't want what is happening with immigration in Europe to happen with us.
And that underscores what we were just saying. And basically, as we said before, 28 European nations voted the other day to get all the migrants out, because they decided after a study was done that there would be no Europe after 5 years. None. Zero. No Christianity, no nations, nothing but an extension of the caliphate of basically. What they're doing in the Levant, they did to Europe and to all over. I mean, this is not going to stop. This is an attempt for hegemony, and that's part of the theocracy of Islam. So the point is, we don't want that type of immigration. We are allowing it under the auspices of immigration, not migration. But we just allowed mass migration to come over our border with that caravan, because we don't have laws to stop it.
Let's get into the final 3 tweets that we have here today. They're all related. Children are being used by some of the worst criminals on earth as a means to enter our country. Has anyone been looking at the crime taking place south of the border? It is historic, with some countries the most dangerous places in the world. Not going to happen in the U.S. Followed by a tweet in all caps, change the laws. And followed by the final tweet of our post today. It is the Democrats' fault for being weak and ineffective with border security and crime. Tell them to start thinking about the people devastated by crime coming from illegal immigration. Change the laws.
Democrats want to support NAFTA. We are in a war with Mexico. People are dying, thousands of people on our side of the border, and countless people on their side of the border. If you don't understand that drug cartels run Mexico, pinch yourself and wake up. That's just the way that it is. There's no such thing as a politician that isn't linked to a cartel, and if they don't keep their allegiance, they get murdered on the spot. And we want to do business with these people? We want to have an open border? Let me tell you a little story. You know that some of the people coming in this country, for 2 years ago, one of the largest groups was pregnant Asian women. Now, let me tell you how they got here. You say, what? Pregnant Asian women. In late term, pregnant Asian women. They are kidnapped from their country, brought to Mexico, brought across the border, and when that criminal who kidnapped them has that anchor baby in America, they're now all Americans. That is a kidnapped human trafficking situation. At one point, the border signs were in Chinese and Spanish. Chinese, folks. So the war at the border is that literally thousands of Asian women are being kidnapped when they're pregnant, brought to Mexico, brought across the border, and used as anchor babies in this country. And when they are caught and released, if they're not caught, no problem. If they're caught, then what they're accusing Trump of, this is the issue. Both the mother and the baby in the belly, and or the little baby, the child that they may be using as they want to get across the border, if they don't get caught, it can still be used as an anchor baby. That's human trafficking. They are kidnapped, and they may be killed after that person gets their citizenship. Where are those people? Where are they now? How come they don't come forward? We are talking about institutionalized human trafficking that Barack Obama personally himself gave planes to MS-13 members to fly them throughout America, to settle them throughout America when they came across the border illegally. Anyone know that? We have pictures of them being served drinks and food on airplanes, MS-13 members, as they are dispersed to communities throughout America. How do you think they got there? This is a Barack Obama program of basically immediate asylum for anybody who's all tattooed up and say that they're an MS-13 member. So if you want to get into America and you want to be treated better than anybody else, tattoo your body with MS-13 tattoos.
It's the American version of ISIS. They couldn't very well have brought ISIS troops in here, so they call them, so they bring in MS-13, but it's there to terrorize citizens and to destabilize our government.
And they're brought to places, to communities where they would never be.
They would never assimilate.
No,
you
not
can't
for 1
take
second.
someone who comes from Somalia and put him down in the middle of Minnesota and say, kind of get along with folks. That's not going to work.
Somalians, again and again, have raped children under 10, and they say they didn't know it was against the law. How about the North Africans who say, well, I saw that little boy, and I got so excited that I had to rape him in the bathroom. No punishment, not locked up, released because it's a cultural difference, they say.
And we need to, because we're a Christian nation, we need to learn to get along.
Tens of thousands of groomed girls, groomed. Imagine that they give that name, groomed. That's disgusting. These are rapes. Tommy Robinson is in jail right now because tens of thousands of girls, since the beginning of Islamic terrorists coming into Britain, have simply set this up as institutionalized rape. And no one goes to jail. And if they go to jail, then they're released. But if a Englishman did that and was caught, oh, no, that'd be it. He'd go to jail for life. But oh no, not a migrant, because they don't understand. So now they are telling people in Sweden, they're telling the girls it's their fault, and the country's fault, because they haven't educated these Somalians enough to let them know that rape is not acceptable. But right now, Sweden says it's destroyed. Social services collapsed. Their country is at an end. And they were the one country that said, oh no, we love these migrants. Please bring them in. They have destroyed their country, and they admit it. You won't see this in the mainstream media. You have to go to other sources to find this. But when you see the news, you're going to see that there's no nation now, none, not even Macron of France is saying that the Muslims are doing anybody any good in Europe. So I'm sorry to be so cruel, but remember, there's a difference between a religion and a theocracy. Christianity used to be a theocracy when the Pope was also a general of his own army, and if you didn't accept Christianity through the Roman version, they killed you. Folks, that was only a few hundred years ago. We still have this going on with other cultures. So when a religion becomes a theocracy, you must separate that. You cannot allow that to become the cultural organization of nations, because if you do, you have to look at the fact that those type of norms are not norms acceptable in the Western world with our laws. You cannot accept Sharia law in America. You cannot accept multiple wives in America. You cannot accept a culture that is going to destroy our culture, especially when they are so aggressive. This is not a culture. This is a hegemony of a theocracy.
Again, it gets back down to borders. It's your national borders. It's the borders of your skin to get into your bloodstream. It's the borders of your thinking, that they want to infiltrate, and your religion and your culture. And that's why we need to batten up the hatches. That's what I say. Put up your border walls. Re-embrace your culture, your special languages, the people you are, the group souls of your nations. This is what we need to be doing now.
Diversity is a beautiful thing, and we need to have every religion and every race in America, because that's what makes us strong. And that's what President Trump is about. But when you have diversity being touted in basically just rhetoric, and then it is used against you, then that's not diversity. That is trying to create singularity, trying to make one more powerful and in more control and over another. And that is not what America is about. We are not preaching any anti-hate. We are preaching that those who preach anti-hate need to be recognized for it. That's all we're saying.